This spring.
Well, a running theme of this Davos was really started by Shinzo Abe, the Japanese Prime Minister, when actually I asked him about the possibility of a war between China and Japan, and he gave an answer which was perhaps injudiciously frank. He said that relations were very tense and compared it to the situation before the First World War in Europe. Today, we had the Chinese Foreign Minister, Wang Yi, responding in some way to those remarks. In some ways, he sounded more conciliatory because he said that a war between China and Japan was unthinkable, which is the diplomatically correct answer, if you like. On the other hand, what he had to say about Japan was very harsh and quite aggressive. He said that Japan should not be allowed to wriggle out of the fact that it was Japan that was unequivocally responsible for the Second World War, and showing that this historical dispute is still a very live issue between China and Japan and still a source of great grievance and so on. And he also condemned Shinzo Abe for his visit to the Yasukuni Shrine, which is where the souls of Japanese soldiers are said to be interred. And he said that was the equivalent of a German leader visiting the graves of Nazi war criminals. So really tough stuff from Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister. And I think that many people will leave this Davos rather more concerned about relations between China and Japan, the two Asian superpowers, the second and third largest economies in the world, more concerned than when they first arrived here. People are, I think, thinking this is not a situation that is getting better, it's getting worse. Today we had an interesting session where the very smooth Iranian foreign minister, Mr. Zarif, was speaking on the same platform as a Jordanian and an American and so on. And Mr. Zarif was putting forward Iran's kind of proposals for how to settle all these things. He said, for example, that he was prepared to go to Saudi Arabia, a country that Iran has very difficult relations with, that said that dialogue was very, very important. But he didn't have things all his own way. A lot of people said to him, well, hang on, are you prepared to condemn Hezbollah, the Iranian ally, which is fighting inside Syria? Aren't you actually trying to advance your own Iranian interests? How can we trust you on the nuclear issue? So behind the kind of very Davos-style emollient discussion where people sit down and try to discuss these things in civilized terms, I still got the impression that there's some very tough issues that aren't really going to be much closer to being resolved. And indeed, when Richard Haas, the American Council of Foreign Relations Middle East specialist, was asked, did he think at the end of this Middle East discussion that things were going to get better over the next year, he said, and I think he was speaking for most people in the room, that no, he thought they'd probably stay the same or even get marginally worse. This is Gideon Rachman for the Financial Times in Davos.